Why on earth would any rational person be offended by someone saying the lives of the people of their race matter? No rational person would be offended. Bigotry and predation are irrational. They can't be logically defended. Now, if they said only Black Lives Matter, that would be different. That's not what they're saying, and you know it. You're just looking for excuses to perpetuate your own prejudices. And black people, get over the slavery issue. All peoples have been enslaved, and we're all still enslaved. Blacks have owned slaves. Jews and Arabs owned slaves. The Indics and Orientals owned slaves. And all those people have been slaves. And whites have been slaves. The American Civil War did not end American slavery. It just renamed it. The North merely forced the Southern elite to adopt the Northern elite's form of slavery. Business dependence and government dependence has always been and will always be slavery. Blacks aren't the only oppressed in this country or anywhere else. Whites and others are oppressed by this global predonomic system. I've been falsely arrested 5 times and harassed by cops a bunch of other times. I've been illegally handcuffed and searched a number of times without being arrested. Whites and Hispanics have also been murdered by cops. Police brutality and oppression is not restricted to the Black American experience. It's the elite who tell us every day, only elite lives matter. Only elite opinions have any validity. They create and enforce a social system so corrupt, occasionally it even puts cops' lives in danger. And instead of standing up to the elite to fix this corruption, the cops cover each other's crimes and just continue to attack the people who draw attention to this corruption. It's the elite and the cops themselves who put cops' lives in danger. And being a cop is still one of the safest jobs there are. Many other jobs have a death rate that far exceeds that of being a cop. And the cops allow themselves to enforce the elitist claim that elitist lives matter more than all other lives, even the lives of the cops who enforce the elitist will. I am black. You couldn't tell that, could you? I am a Jew and a female. I bet you couldn't tell those things either. I am a Mongoloid, a Caucasian, and an Indic. I'm a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, an atheist, and an agnostic, and a midget and a dwarf. I'm an animal and a human. I am all the stars in the sky, and I'm the planet Jupiter. I am one single atom and one single electron. I am trillions of atoms and the clouds that hover above us. I am the air that I breathe and the vacuum of space. I'm a tree and an insect. I am the sweat on your brow and the dirt between your toes. I am the shoe on your foot and the hair on your head. I am both everything and nothing, and everything in between. I am the millions of humans that's been slaughtered by other humans. What I am not is a predator. I am neither love nor hate, and I am both. I am compassion, tolerance, and empathy. I am human rights, and animal rights, and environmental rights. As an equalist, I understand I am a part of the entire universe, and the universe belongs to us all. Now, among that list, I made a glaring omission. Just who are the most oppressed people on the planet? That would be women and the poor. But among the poor are a group of people we have wiped clean from our everyday thoughts and experiences. 6 million Jews are estimated to have died in the Holocaust, but that number is misleading. The Nazis kept meticulous records. That's one thing they were good at, but much of those records were destroyed in the war. We'll never know the exact number of the victims of the Holocaust, but in actuality, anywhere between 10 and 12 million people were murdered in the Holocaust. And I'm not even including the victims of Stalin's Holocaust. The Nazi SS slaughtered blacks and Arabs, at least the ones they could find in Europe at that time. Their victims included gays, the disabled, socialists, communists, social democrats, right-wing opponents, and their families. They included people who simply uttered an offhand criticism of the regime overheard in some bar somewhere. They included the falsely accused by those with personal grudges, and even included German soldiers and Nazi members themselves. And the vast majority of Nazis knew nothing of this Holocaust and would have been appalled if they did know. The Jews were not the only people to suffer through the Holocaust. It was not so much a racially based thing, despite Hitler's anti-Semitic rhetoric. It was much more of an enemy of the state kind of thing, in which race played a role. And Jews are not even an actual race. Jews and Arabs, the Semites, are actually Caucasian. They're white people. And yes, Jesus, being a Semite, was white too. If the Jews and blacks think their histories are full of injustices, what they've suffered is nothing compared to the sufferings and abuses of the North American indigenes, the Northern West indigenes. For God's sake, give them a respect of not calling them Indians. They aren't Indians. Indians come from Asia, not from the Western Hemisphere. And they aren't Native Americans. The word America comes from a European named Amerigo and has nothing to do with these people. The West Indigenes were all but driven to extinction. The Southern West Indigenes have recovered pretty well, but the Northern West Indigenes are still as close to extinction as any race has ever been. North America is not a land of immigrants, like the predatory liberals keep trying to tell us. It is a land of invaders. We stole an entire continent from its rightful owners. We broke contract after contract with these people. We've exterminated their cultures. We forced them into government dependence, alcoholism, drug addiction, despair, and utter and complete poverty. We spit on these people every time we ignore their Holocaust. And their Holocaust continues today with no end in sight. Where's the American army to come stop their Holocaust? Among these people were the last equalist societies on earth. And, led and encouraged by our elite, we annihilated them. We thought so little of these people, we didn't even think them worthy of enslavement. We abolished them from human society altogether. But we forget these Holocaust victims because they can't hire a PR firm to keep their misery fresh in our minds. And they're not allowed lobbyists in the U.S. government. And the elite media sure isn't going to remind us of the human rights crimes committed by our elite against these people. This and all oppression is predonomics. Predonomics is evil incarnate. It's vile and disgusting. It lies, steals, enslaves, imprisons, tortures, and murders. The elite oppress us based upon the slavery of us all. It's monetarily based. It's based on absolute control over every living person who isn't wealthy, and every human, animal, and natural resource that the elite can exploit towards the goal of absolute global control. It separates and divides the oppressed, and the oppressed fall for it generation after generation. The West Indigenes, Jews, blacks, Europeans, Arabs, Indians, East Asians, liberals, conservatives, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, atheists, agnostics, the employed, the unemployed, the middle class, the poor, the destitute, soldiers, civilians, men, women, adults, and children. We all have many things in common. We're all people. We're all oppressed. We're all enslaved. We're all fodder for war and chattel for the cogs of capitalism. We're all just meat for the elitist meat grinder. We're nothing but elitist sacrifices to their god of money and power. And we all participate in each other's slavery and oppression. We're all responsible for each other's oppression and our own. As an equalist, I reject and denounce predonomics because it requires that I prey on others to make a living. It demands you to deny people their human rights, food, medical care, housing, and equal protection under the law so you can survive. Quit rationalizing your own predation by saying, I'm only doing my job, or my employer told me to do it. These are the most common excuses in history for perpetuating human misery. You don't have the right to violate human rights. I don't care who orders you to do it. You must resist, refuse, and revolt. When you stand for the rights of others, you are standing for your own rights. Quit separating yourselves from the other oppressed. You aren't unique in your misery. Start befriending those the elite claim are your enemy. Conservatives and liberals, religious and atheists, blacks and whites, Start recognizing your human commonality. Find excuses to unite, not to continue to fight each other. We can all be free through the mutual protection of one another's rights. The individual right to think, believe, and live as we see fit. The individual right to find and follow our own paths. When we decide to stop listening to the lies of our elite that put us at each other's throats, then we will find peace and justice through equalism. You bet your life Black Lives Matter, and so do the lives and freedom of every individual on Earth. The life of our planet matters, but we're allowing the elite to destroy it in its never-ending pursuit of more profit, more wealth, and more global domination. When we unite through equalism, the equal protection of everyone's individuality, we will break the stranglehold the elite has on humanity and the entire planet. The conservative and liberal elite are the same elite. Your elitist leaders are your oppressors. So please stop enforcing the predation of your own elitist oppressors. Stop your participation in the oppression of yourselves, your families, your neighbors, and your species. End your enforcement of the elitist will, and join the revolution for human dignity and independence. Your species and your planet need your help. Thanks.